Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. A very warm welcome to you today on this leadership session with Nigerian business leaders. Thank you for joining us from wherever you are Lagos, Abuja, Kano, Kaduna. You're all welcome. In the traditional approach to route to market, companies primarily focus on establishing and optimizing the distribution channels through which their products reach consumers. This typically involves identifying and targeting specific distribution channels, such as wholesale, retail, distributors, and optimizing the logistics and supply chain to ensure efficient delivery of products through these channels. The emphasis is on building strong relationships with intermediaries and ensuring that products are readily available and accessible to consumers through these established channels. Route to consumer represents a shift towards a more consumer-centric approach to route to market, where companies prioritize understanding and engaging directly with consumers to drive growth and competitiveness. Joining me today to explore the topic, joining me today to explore the topic um, are two great industry experts. The first speaker today to join me will be Mr. Kasim Olusegun. Kasim has an extensive experience in route to market implementation across multiple categories, including pharmaceuticals, fashion, and FMCG. He brings a wealth of knowledge and expertise to packaged goods distribution in Nigeria and has led growth in international markets like the Philippines, South Africa, while working with market leaders like GlaxoSmithKline, GSK, Vlisco Nigerian Limited, Mondelez, and Friesland Campina, Wamco Nigerian PLC. Please make welcome Mr. Kasim Olusegun.
Yeah,
Thank you,
thank
Mr.
you very much, Godson. I'm super excited to be here to, delve into this important topic of making our products available into homes. So it's about in-home penetration, I must say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kasim. Thank you very much. My second guest today is also a very seasoned digital route to market expert. Mr. Akshat Kush heads the enterprise growth at Bizom, an RTM expert with a decade of experience spanning analytics, RTM technology, and supply chain architecture. Akshat heads growth for consumer goods businesses across Africa, Middle East, Asia, and has a knack for implementing outcome-focused solutions. Please make welcome Mr. Akshat Kush.
Thank you so much, Godson. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, but today it's even more special because we are discussing something which
Thank
is
you
very
very much.
close to route to consumer and how technology is going to play a role in it. Super excited to be here.
Thank you so much, Kush. Thank you so much for the two of you joining me. Our last guest, unfortunately, is unable to make it because of health emergency. So we will move on. So my first question today will go to, of course, the man on ground, Mr. Kasim. Like the rest of the world, Nigeria has also been affected by digitization. Everybody else now carries some mobile device. Um, so from a consumer perspective, how has this digitization affected the consumer lifestyle, their choices, and decisions?
Yeah, thank you very much, Godson, for that question. And for us, it's important that we also talk from a fact-based perspective rather than opinion-based perspective. So I will drop some numbers while we are discussing. Digitization has actually brought in changes in consumer behavior in recent times, and these preferences have also impacted on consumer decision tree in trying to understand, oh, how do I get my products that I need into my house, establishing that second moment of truth for the brand. While the first moment of truth for the brand from a brand perspective is availability in store. Now, how has this tectonic shift happened? The basis of this shift is premised on internet penetration. And I'll drop some numbers here. You will see that according to the Nigerian Communications Commission, uh, we have about 215 mobile internet, active subscribers to uh, telecommunication networks in Nigeria. We also see that the rising, penetration of smartphones in Nigeria has also brought, stores or shops or even brands to consumer palms. And whatever you need today is in the palms of the consumer. And this has also put a little bit of pressure on trade, where the consumer today is more demanding, and the demand of consumer is has now shifted to traditional retail opening hours to a 24/7 demand. So at any point in time, the consumer is seeking to be satisfied with different brand options, and route to consumer becomes an important way to deliver on the brand's promise, as it were. Um, as of January 2023, we also saw that about 125 million internet users are available in Nigeria. What that means for us is, with internet penetration that high in the palms of teaming consumers, it also directly impacts brands. Having brands at your palms, it's that becomes an important aspect of getting brands to gain in-home penetration. The disruption that is coming is distribution system becomes impacted, and the linear distribution system, which we know, which is the conventional distribution system, is about manufacturers or depots, then from there to distributors, wholesalers, then finally
Uh, it does look like we've lost Mr. Kasim. Um, while we wait for him to come back, I mean, I couldn't agree less with what Mr. Kasim has said. I mean, looking at the population demographics of Nigeria, where more than 70% of our population is under the age of 30, you see that the younger people are more receptive of digitization than we have of the other people. We have seen some changes in consumer behavior, driven largely by things that we can directly lay our hands on today. Things like buy now, pay later, in our local parlance called pay on delivery, has meant that people can actually engage with brands without necessarily putting foods at retail outlets anymore. We've also seen an overload of product selections in the last few years. Assortments are everywhere, so consumers are now awash with choice overload. And with a digital device in their hand, they have access to loads of information that will do a lot of consumer education before purchase happens. So we've seen an increase in consumer education, and customers are increasingly looking for personalization. And these are some of the benefits that fitting and focusing on the consumer-centric side of the route to market would unlock. So thank you, Mr. Kasim. While we wait for you to come back, I'm going to move the next question to Akshat. Akshat is a seasoned RTM technology expert. In my world, in my many years of experience, when he starts speaking, I keep quiet because he's done it here and there. So welcome, Akshat, and thank you so much for making the time for this call. So my first question to you, I mean, and this is what would worry a lot of the people who have joined this call from wherever, is yes, we know RTM, What then is RTC? So what does RTC mean, and how is it different from the RTM that we've all been used to over the past years?
Sure. I think that's a brilliant question, Gobson, right? Because, see, while there's a clear difference between RTC and RTM, it's more interesting and it's more important to understand how RTM has evolved into RTC, right? Because there was a clear need for markets to change their focus in the way they look at it. So, if we look at the way our traditional industry is shaped, or if we look at it by design, it is a push based industry where it at every level after the manufacturer, there is usually to drive sales a trade promotion program, a target incentive model, a loyalty program, and so on and so forth. These are all ways and manipulations essentially which are a part of an overarching push model which is there. But as the technology is shaping up, as we go into a world where the manufacturers know at every leg, at every step, where are their products, where are their people, what is the channel partner doing, there is a clear cut stage at which the manufacturer is able to change the dynamics from push to pull. They are able to get nearer and nearer to the consumer and understand exactly what the consumer is like. So this entire shift from route to market, which was essentially a supply-based model, has is changing to a route to consumer model, which will essentially be a demand-based model, right? We already and you've already seen an in a very dynamic change happening in the West African markets, wherein we see the rise of quick commerce. We see that companies are trying to establish just-in-time inventory. In line with this trend, the companies are now focusing from their primary leg, which is from the manufacturer to the distributor, to now the secondary leg, which is what exactly is on the shelf of that neighborhood store. What exactly is selling in bulk in that open market channel, right? And how exactly can the retail store capitalize on their space as far as the modern trade channel is concerned? So we are getting more and more demand and more analytics for the retail channel, number one. Second, one thing which is very interesting to see as part of this route to consumer shift is the role of artificial intelligence and the role of generative AI, which will play a big role in the years to come, as far as this shift is concerned. So, Godson, you and me, we've together been a part of this industry where the initial technology and the initial automation was all about how can we make our channel partner more efficient. And then beyond that, companies were essentially not focusing. From the past 3 to 4 years, we've seen that companies are focusing more and more on what exactly are the retailers placing the demand for. Is the scheme as well as the product reaching the retailer level? The next 5 years are very special, especially for players like us, especially for anyone in the FMCG industry, because we are stepping into a world of trade innovation. We are stepping into a world where generative AI can essentially guide your sales guys and empower them on what to sell, where to sell, and how much is the demand, which will come in the upcoming times, can be predicted to a very large, accurate extent. So I am personally very excited for driving this stage of transformation, and as the trends say, uh, we will come more and more in a world where our human skills and relationship skills will become more important, especially for the FMCG sales rep, and the data mining, what to sell, where to sell, all of that will be taken care of by the essentially by automation tools like Bizom. One interesting thing which I would like to point out is that using generative AI, we initially when it came, we thought that it's a farce, right? But today we are at a stage where we are solving real business problems using generative AI. I think Godson, you will agree, and Mr. Kasim, you will agree more so, that the starting of every trade promotion planning, the starting of every secondary scheme planning happens with a clean outlet master. So what we had multiple rules and algorithms playing this part, that there can be no duplicate numbers, and there are multiple things which were in place. But one thing which I love, which Godson says, is that the sales rep is always 2 steps ahead of technology. But what we've been able to do is, in this race, we are using image data as input. And generative AI, Wizon generative AI essentially is able to tell us that 2 or 3 outlet IDs are duplicate. The same image is tagged to different outlet IDs. So we are very fast. We are driving very, very clean outlet masters, which essentially form the base for your entire route to consumer revolution.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Akshat. I mean, if I hear you very clearly, quite a lot of the current effort at Bizom is focusing on empowering the local businesses to be able to be as dynamic as possible to serve their immediate community. You know, so we are going to see a lot of depth in terms of penetration from the local retail point and empowering businesses to have that visibility. So, I mean, all well and good from a global perspective. I would like to go back to Kasim and understand how is this playing out locally? What are the patterns that are emerging locally um, with this regard? So my next question would go to Mr. Kasim, where I'll be asking, what are the emerging technologies or trends that are expected to shape the future of route to consumer in Nigeria?
Yes, thank you very much, Godson. Fantastic question. Like we earlier said, one thing that we need to know is, the consumer is king. Revenue generation of most brands is determined by in-home penetration and consumption. Like what my colleague has said, which is Ashat has also mentioned that it is important that we realize that a push mechanism into trade does not necessarily move revenue needle. It's important that we understand that consumption is in-home, penetration. How do brands grow? Brands grow by ensuring that there is in-home penetration and delivering on the second moment of truth, which is when the product is consumed. In that regard, you will see that a lot of things, the emerging technologies has also impacted the way brands have been offered to consumers. And one such way, quick commerce, for instance, today, no, in yesteryears, I would be I'll be precious to ensure that my wife, for instance, gives me a breakfast pack, all the way to the office, and because I needed to eat with a cup of coffee in the office. Those days are, fading away now. What is happening now is the emergence of quick commerce has, come to replace that, where solutions like Chowdeck is a breakfast, lunch, and dinner at your palms that you just order and the delivery person comes to your doorstep and you have what you want to eat. That's one big thing. Direct to customer business model is another thing that has really come to stay. And one interesting part, particularly for us in Nigeria, is the digital led hub and spoke. Now, what is digital led hub and spoke? It's let me give an example of my experience in Friesland Campina, where we understand that yes, in Nigeria we have some troubled areas, particularly in the north, and we needed to get brands from the perspective of how brands grow into rural villages. And in that regard, the solution that was deployed, an innovative solution that was deployed at that time, was having solutions like retail self-ordering, where the retailer in the village can already order the product from the town and it is delivered at the cost of the retailer in the rural area um, to him. So penetration is just the way to go to win in our current environment. For your brands to grow, it must be in store, and the next leg is it has to be in home. Traditional e-commerce is also evolving. These are big disruptors from a global and local perspective. We're also seeing globalization of what is happening in the Amazon space come into Nigeria big time, and this is disrupting a lot of purchase in traditional trade. And what is informing this? What is informing this is convenience. And one thing that we've also seen is that the fintech companies are also growing into this space really well. And I see those fintech companies are coming to really, as a tsunami, to really impact the traditional linear distribution model. And that comes with a lot of price to be paid. So it is important that sales directors, uh, commercial managers, as it were, in this industry embrace digitalization, ensuring they understand what happens end to end in the route to market of the brands that they are carrying. And if we do not do this from an AI perspective, we may not be equipped to win in the future. For us to win in the future, we need to have SFAs across all salesmen that we have. Route to market, route to consumer is about cost and control. What is the control mechanism that we will put in place? The control mechanism we will put in place is to ensure that you understand what is happening between the black hole of manufacturing all the way to consumption, and that is what Bizum technology would offer clients, as it were, in Nigeria. And I've also seen that importantly, we, from a demand-based business, it is important to understand what is the consumption in trades to prevent unnecessary lockdown of inventory from a manufacturing perspective. So all these are things that have come to really impact and shape the way how digitalization has shaped the conventional route to market, route consumer of the Nigerian market space. Our retail architecture is very, very unique. Our retail architecture requires, a step ahead. And like my colleague said, it is important that we embrace digitalization if we really want to win in the nearest future. Godson.
Thank you so much, Kazim. Thank you so very much for that. That's a very deep insight. I mean, I couldn't agree less. In my experience rolling out within the Nigerian market, a few things have sprung up. You did mention about your hub and spoke in the northern Nigeria, where the challenges are very unique. And that's really the story across Nigeria, in the sense that when you go from one region to another, you need to recalibrate your strategy to suit what that locality looks for, in such a way that as a business, you might see yourself running multiple P&Ls just to keep be able to get a grip of what's happening in each cluster. So thank
Yeah.
you very much. I mean, but the important thing to take out from here is the role data plays in all these decisions, and how data needs to be your single source of truth. I cannot go to the northeast now when I have no data, and then I will just be spraying and praying and hoping for the best. But digitization is that one approach that the first deliverable becomes data that drives decision. So it is actually we are running out of options in terms of how to continue to serve this continuously evolving market. So the big question that then comes back um, to me, and I'm going to push this back to Akshat, is we cannot always be at all the locations as brands. Our job is to enable the supply chain to do magic, right? Historically, we've seen I like the image you shared earlier, where we had a lot of the supply side of distribution, where you're pushing products. What has technology done to kind of reduce this effort, because this is the cost consuming element of distribution. How can businesses, retails, take advantage of technology to sort of reduce that, where we are transitioning from a supply model to a more influential demand model?
Thank you, Godson. I think it's a very important topic, not just in boardrooms these days. It's a very important topic, which different FMCG sales reps are talking to each other. They always keep talking to each other that now technology is here, now different platforms are here. Will we still have a job in 5 years? Well, I would like to reassure that from my, I would say, over 600 large deployments, one thing which we've always seen is that the sales rep and the sales teams will always stay relevant, right? Technology has a role to play in the way we look at the supply chain. However, the role of the sales rep just becomes more and more important. I think the opportunity really lies in the areas where FMCG companies are not meeting their demands even as of now. So I'm talking about the underserved areas, right? If you look at any large enterprise consumer packaged goods company, at any point in time, there is close to around 10 to 15% of either attrition or absenteeism. There is always that white space and there is always that opportunity. So there is a consumer who has purchased some product off the shelf. There is a retailer who wanted to purchase it, but him expressing his demand to the manufacturer or to the distributor, he's reliant on that sales rep visit. And the sales rep either is absent or he's quit his job, and there is a vacant beat, as we call it in the market. Is there a way in which the technology can plug this vacant beat phenomena? And the good part is that definitely yes, with the rise of smartphone, rise in the smartphone penetration, with the rise in commoditizing of our internet packs, what we have realized is that we can empower the retailers who would usually rely on the salesman to come and visit after 14 days, after 21 days, and places orders. He can place the demand real time, and once the order or the once the demand size reaches a minimum order quantity, the supply can then start or the shipping can then start. So what we've realized is this particular 10 to 15% of the demand can be rightly plugged into, and the supply can start happening. That is one. Second is it's definitely convenience, right? You and me as consumers, we use quick commerce, we use e-commerce, we've started using it. The whole sole reason or the whole sole drive for that has been convenience. Rather than going to a brick and mortar store, if I can get something, uh, is happily sitting at my home, why wouldn't I do that? Giving and empowering our retailers with that convenience has been I would say, a long-standing dream for so many of the FMCG leaders I talk to on a regular basis. And today we are in a position to do that. We are in a position to give them a simple platform using which they can not only simply get the orders from the retailers, they can also solve the information asymmetry which is in the market. If you just look at, I think Nigeria as a market, right? If you look at core Lagos markets, those retailers will be informed about the new products. They will be informed about the new scheme. But as we go in the upcountry, as we go in the outer of the region, there is the information and the awareness about new products, new schemes, even new brands becomes less and less and less. How do we solve this information asymmetry? So today we are leveraging the smartphone penetration. We are extensively leveraging WhatsApp as a layer of communication to plug that information asymmetry, number one, to serve as a digital BTL channel for the brand, rather than investing millions of dollars in uh, installing those standees even in the upcountry markets. They can just do this digital BTL. And one thing which all of us know here is a large part of the consumer decision making process lies with the neighborhood store or lies with the mom and pop store, right? To a great extent, the brand loyalty in our markets are fragile, so to speak, and it is the retailer who takes the decision which product you eventually take back home. What influences the retailer decision? This is where the B2B marketplace, I would say, is the future of demand generation and capture, because you will be able to essentially influence the retailer decision going forward. One another, and I think a lot of people will be interested in this. One another phenomenal track on which we are working very, very aggressively is there a way in which I can publish or I can capture the in store visibility or the share of shelf at every single neighborhood store for every single brand? So as a trade marketing manager, or as a consumer planner, you can sit and you can watch your share of shelf rise or fall depending on the decisions you've taken in the past. That is something we are really, really gunning after, and the rise of the retailer app will only make this possible more. So I'm excited in a future where the brands will be able to drive their loyalties, their shelf visibilities, and definitely their order uh, through this particular platform. Having said that, we have done a lot of experiments in different markets to establish that sales guys are going nowhere. Salespeople will always be relevant to have that human touch and to establish that relationship. The retailer app just introduces convenience, demand, and information in the whole loop.
Akshat, and the more I listen to you, the more uh, uh, I begin to see the need for analytics. I mean, there's lots of questions coming through the question feed, which we will get to in a bit. And I like them. They are interesting questions that even hammers down on this. But the big question is that of adoption. To a lot of the prospects in this market and some of the sub-Saharan African emerging markets, is that challenge of adoption, right? So I would like, I'm sorry, I'm coming back to you on this question, and I also have Kasim have a dig on it shortly after you, is what do businesses have to do to embrace digitization? And knowing that there are different generations of digitization, as I saw in your slide earlier on, you have the 1.0, a 2.0, and a 3.0. What would be your advice for businesses who are looking to embrace digitization as a way out of the spray and pray competition that we currently have across the market?
Sure. Thank you, Godson. I think another very, very important question which today FMCGs need to contemplate, right? The first, which you mentioned, that at what stage are they in? I personally love that framework, because it's very important for a company to identify what stage of digitization they are in and accept it, right? I've seen companies who would ideally want directly to jump to trade innovation stage, where the basic channels of information capture is not established. So and this is something which I firmly believe in, right? The first leg or the first step is establishing stable channels of information capture. Are your sales rep completely digitized? Are your all of your on street personas end to end digitized, wherein they're able to use a digital channel seamlessly, whether the internet is there, whether the internet is not there? Are they able to use a digital channel seamlessly to track their sales, to track their target achievement, to track orders? Is the order seamlessly going to a channel partner and a distributor, and he's able to bill it and provide that information to the principal brand without having to do any duplicate effort, right? It does not. There is absolutely no necessity today in the world we are in wherein he has to do one transaction in a company's DMS and also has to do a duplicate transaction in his own local ERP. We are way beyond that particular stage. So the idea is to essentially empower all your legs within the supply chain on one single platform. I think during the initial stage when RTM 1.0 was just starting up, the challenge was getting stable platforms on which your sales rep, merchandisers, distributors would partake in. We are probably beyond that challenge, right? But today, what I see most of the companies in West Africa struggling with, and the challenge which sort of faces them, is that there are different systems for different personas. For a sales rep, they will have a different system. For a distributor, they will have a different system. For a merchandiser, they have completely offloaded it to a third party agency who uses a different system. And then when the systems talk to each other, it all goes to mess, right? They are unable to identify a single source of truth for their downstream route to market. So I think step number one would definitely be having one singular platform wherein all of your data capture is happening at different legs. After that, once we move beyond that, it is extremely important to optimize decision making at every level. I think we talk a lot about data analytics, but we forget that data analytics is twofold, right? One is obviously the decisions the trade marketing managers, the head of sales, the sales directors, and the CXOs are taking from within boardrooms. A much more important decision is the decision your sales rep is taking on the field, right? So it's very important to empower both the leadership with a single source of truth, using which they can look at any KPI at any point in time and drill down to the last mile sitting within from within their office. They should be able to identify which is their underperforming area, which is their underperforming distributor or sales rep, right from their office. And all of this ideally should be real time, right? This is what exactly what we mean by RTM 2.0 or RTC 2.0, in fact, that you're able to see all of your downstream route to market KPIs in a single view on your phone, on your laptop, on the go. That is one. But according to me, a far more important decision making process lies with your sales guy. Are you empowering him with enough data so that he's able to see which rank he's standing in within the team? Are we guiding him as to what SKU to sell to which particular outlet? This is a class B outlet, so you have to sell these SKUs. You need not sell a super big SKU, right? Or this is a class A outlet, so we need not sell a sachet size SKU. While all of this is intuitive, but technology essentially takes the sales rep mind off this, and he can invest in more human things, such as creating a relationship with the retailer so that he always prefers your brand. One thing which we love seeing after usually we deploy Bizom is that before, typically sales rep have to wait for end of the month or end of the quarter to receive their rewards and recognitions. But afterwards, once they are on the platform, we typically run a real-time reward recognition process. We completely gamify the sales process. So at every stage, at every leg, they are completely driven to come in the top three, come in the top five. And we've seen this directly impacting their work, right? So these are certain things we need to take care. We also need to understand the local cultural affiliations, right? As far as I know, West Africa is extremely big on football. So why not, when some big EPL game is on, why not completely just overnight build a game on based on EPL, and you can run that particular game with your local sales team. So individual regional and area sales managers can do it for their own particular sales teams. So this is where we are as far as RTM 2.0 is concerned. What I am personally extremely excited for is the trade innovations. I am personally extremely excited for launching certain tools and certain products wherein we are using generative AI. And for as far as sales directors, CXOs are concerned, all of their data analytics will be on their fingertips. So according to me, Godson, this has a very big role to play in transitioning companies from the base leg all the way to trade innovation. And I'm super proud to play my role in this particular journey.
Well, thank you so much, Akshat. Thank you so very much. There's so much to take in one response. It does sound like we would have to find a different session to have you to dive in more into this, because that's a lot to take in. And I think um, the Nigerian market is ripe to embrace these innovations. But I mean, we hear you. You are coming from wherever you are coming from. You've deployed all over the world. I always prefer to listen to some boots on ground. So I'd like Kasim to take on the same question of what do businesses need to do from digitization is one thing, but in my model, there are three elements that drive transformation, which is people, processes, and system. So a little away from digitization, from a systems or technology or tool standpoint, what do you think businesses need to do to leapfrog the opportunity in front of them, maybe to catch up and be able to compete in tomorrow's business? And that's to you, Kasim.
Yeah, thank you very much, Gutson. And I would say, Akshat, well said. And I will follow up from what he has said because everything is in that direction. And like you've mentioned, Gutson, it's a 3-in-1, if I may, solution: people, process, and tools. Now, being a salesman in Nigeria, one thing that most salespeople in Nigeria really, for easy adaptability or adoption, if I may, of tools is the ease of implementation of those tools, the ease of use of those tools is very, very important. Now, let's take a step backwards. And the step backward is I was told to use this tool. Does my Oga even understand what he's looking at in this tool? If you are not discussing from the standpoint of the understanding of the secondary sales force as a leader, then that becomes a challenge. That means it is important that businesses invest in their leaders to understand these tools very well. The team that we are all leading, the secondary sales force, God saying they are very intelligent set of people. These are team members that are ahead of you in technology. Team members that can navigate all sorts of DMS at their convenience, and you'll be marveled at the kind of shortcuts that they would deploy to ensure that you are happy. But the first thing for all businesses is to invest in leadership, understanding the tool itself. So it should not be go get this. It should be I understand this. I understand what is required of you, and I will help you. On that journey. That is from a leadership perspective. If the leadership does not understand the secondary sales force automation principles and results and techniques, as it were, God saying it's going to fall flat because you'll be outwitted. Um, that's the first thing. Invest in leadership to really understand what to look out for when you're discussing. Now, the second thing is uh, I will give you an example. In a former business that I was managing, one important KPI that we were looking at was usage compliance. Uh, have you used your this one? Because it is a sin, it is a crime if you do not have utilization of your handheld terminal. It is your work tool, you understand. So that paradigm shift, we need to really deploy that understanding. And what we were able to do is to reward on that basis. See this as a tool. During daily operational review, weekly activity review, you will see sales reps scramble to distributor locations to charge these handheld terminals, because at a certain time, if it is not on and it is not used, it is deemed as if you were not at work that day. It counts against you. So, and we also tied it to the KPI of the sales leadership, because if you have team members that you are controlling or you are managing that are not at work, in quotes, then what are you doing? So an important KPI to look at is handle terminal utilization. Uh, One thing that I like that my colleague, my co-presenter, has said is about the singular source of truth. You see, you cannot deploy an SFA tool in the market, in a business, and you're looking at another set of KPIs that is outside that tool. You need to, the data required to win is going to be from that tool alone. And that tool that you are all looking at should be a one KPI. In one of my businesses that I've been able to manage before, the vice president now instituted that there should be one KPI across board. is, SFA tool is talking about something, the demand, because SFA will drive demand. The demand forecast is different from the supply into the market, and it was an inventory mess. So the singular source of truth must work across the various chains of the business. So the demand forecast, the demand planning must come from the SFA that is being deployed in the market. That should that should be the basis of your forecast in the market, and there is also an element of push in the market, as it were. So important to note that the SFA should be in a singular sort of truth across the business, and not be said to be a sales tool, and the supply chain is doing another set of looking at another set of numbers which are not demand based. That's one thing, I think, well, from my experience, that we need to really look at. Now, periodically, sales team, from a leadership perspective, should deploy trainings that will aid up and the executive to adopt numbers, as it were. Then we also see that it's also important that uh, one solution that I've seen for people to know is what I call a workshop. Now, what is work and shop? Chop as CHOP. As the sales guy is selling, and you need to adopt this, as the sales guy is selling, he should understand what is coming into his piggy bank from an incentive perspective. That is going to be one driver for him to wake up every day to go the extra mile beyond the call of duty. So as I sell, I understand what is being returned into my piggy bank at the end of the day. There's no stories at the end of the day. I understand if I meet 75% of my sales number, I should get XYZ% of the total value sales on my incentive. The lines per call incentive is also there. The category focus incentive is also there. And all these things solutions should be available to deploy this kind of interfaces to the sales guy on his handheld terminal. He understands what comes into his kitty at the end of the day. That is one motivatory factor that we need to deploy. No 2 days are the same in Nigeria. You will agree. You end yesterday with something. Today, for instance, a sales rep went to a distributor location. He parked his vehicle. Today, you have queues already. So, what can we do at the end of the day? No 2 days are the same. There are external impactors, which is beyond your control. What is the plan B? And the plan B here will be, instantly deploying direct to consumer models, that this guy can also have, something to sell, as it were. Uh, we need to quickly, integrate that into our current SFA solutions that we're deploying, as it were. Now, as we deploy this, there are two legs that we need to look at. We need to look at the control. We need to also look at the span. I've seen in most cases the demand for go to more outlets, go to more outlets, go to more outlets, without looking at the span of control of the secondary sales force. Uh, uh, from my understanding and my training in the Philippines, for instance, what we've understood is that a secondary sales guy, if he does a bi-weekly call on outlets, should be conveniently able to manage about 150 outlets as a way, with about 80%, strike rate in these outlets. But you may want to do an audit of some deployment in the market, for instance, where you see 300 outlets, you see X number of outlets, even more than the capacity of the sales guy. And when the dashboard is being run, it runs at its own. It doesn't optimize. It doesn't. He doesn't win, because the algorithms that have been put in place in such SFA deployment will return value that is not performing. But unfortunately, the leadership of the team has, told him, go do this, get more outlets, without understanding the span of control of these outlets. The SFAs, or the sales force, should be look at Marines. They can do a lot of things, but what is the optimal capacity of what they need to do? Leadership of businesses should also look into that to really understand how to win in the market. If we do not look at the two sides, a Salesforce automation perspective, the people perspective, the tool that you've deployed perspective, then believe you me, whatever that is being deployed will be deployed without getting the real market insights to win in the market. Godson.
I said, I wish we had more time with regards to this webinar. There's so much to be said and so much unsaid. You couldn't have said it any better. I mean, in terms of adoption, in my experience, I've seen so many models and so many scenarios where businesses invest in sales automation or digitization, and the leadership looks in a different direction,
Yeah.
and it just meeting a KPI for them that the board says we should invest here, and then they walk away. So I've seen strongly that where you've been able to unlock value quickly are places where you have good executive sponsorship, right? So it's important that the leadership of these businesses are on ground and sponsoring this and being able to shut down every bypass and every alternative channels to data or information or feedback. There is always a learning curve. There is always a cultural change that comes with digitization. But as long as the business is insistent and putting their feet down, that period will be reduced to the barest minimum. So thank you, Mr. Kasim, for that very rich feedback. Unfortunately, we are running out of time, and there's so many questions on the comment section, and we probably won't be able to take all of it, but I'll just take a handful. The first question is from Dev, who's saying, what would be the strategic changes required by FMCG companies in Nigeria to shift from the complete RTM model to a blend of RTC? So increasingly, I mean, the answer to this is simple. Increasingly, the we have seen that the traditional everyday route to market is stretched. I really don't want to call brands, but we've seen models where businesses were unlocking growth without using any of the traditional channels. So the channels are expanding and are evolving, not necessarily replacing each other, but complementing or expanding the consumer behavior as the consumer choices as they go along. So businesses should look at working on more channels or more models on the existing model in a way that allows them to do comparative analysis and be able to tell what works where in what region of the business. So well, because of time, I won't be able to delve much into that. There's a question here from Augusta, I think, and the question is, how does BISOM help with store enumeration, and how does it ensure the authenticity of store directory? That's a very important question, and I think actually that is down your alley. So I'll let you take this. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Godson. I think, Augusta, that this is the most fundamental question we start most of our engagement and discussions with. All of your decision making process starts with an authentic store directory, right? How we have managed to do this, and essentially I said, it's usually a race between technology and sales rep. The sales rep will always win, but at the end of the day, the technological developments will always come out on top. Essentially, today the most latest algorithm which we have essentially tracks multiple things. We are able to triangulate a store with the help of unique mobile numbers, with the help of a real-time image. So the important or the operative word here is a real-time image. Whenever the sales rep is adding the store, a BISOM camera typically opens and captures the image. There is no possibility of adding an image from the gallery. This particular activity of this outlet addition is time stamped and geotagged. So you have the location, you have the image, and you have the unique mobile number. Now, the interesting aspect here is, even beyond this, there was always a case of the sales rep adding multiple outlets at the same location, so on and so forth, or adding the same image, capturing the same image, or most people will not be surprised to know this. Some sales rep, they capture one mobile phone from the other mobile phone. So essentially, they'll be capturing screen to screen image to add an outlet to essentially ward off all of these duplicate outlets. We are extensively using generative AI. We use large language models. It is essentially the same technology through which the chat gpts of the world are powered. We use that to identify that this particular store is a unique store, and the sales rep has added 5 outlet IDs to this particular image. And just to give you certain perspective, today this particular tech is so evolved that if I'm purchasing a product from the store, and tomorrow, Mr. Augusta, if you purchase certain product from the store, our tech will be able to say that this is the same store. Traditional image recognition technology, which used to compare pixel to pixel, fails in this kind of a problem statement. But today, generative AI has solved this problem. We are able to not only essentially drive outlet duplication and clean store directories, we are also able to help large FMCGs do a lot of store profiling. So we'll be able to tell you that these particular outlets you have mentioned are A class, but according to us, 30% of them are A class, the rest of them are B class, and so on and so forth. Along with just defining classes, we are also able to define product affinities and so on and so forth. So we are moving into an exciting world, especially with the launch of generative AI, and having a store directory will become having an authentic store directory in the next couple of years will become as common as having a basic SFA installed.
Thank you so very much. I think we have run out of time. There are so many other questions that we would have here. Um, what we will do at the end of this session is we will put out a QR code where our guests will be allowed to book a session for a full customer specific demos, and we will specifically attend to all your requests in that session. We've only booked 1 hour for this call, and unfortunately, we are 4 or 5 minutes over our time. It's not my intention to keep you any longer. So I want to take the time to thank everyone who was logged in to participate in this session, and most especially my guests, Kasim Olusegun. Uh, you're a captain of the industry, and we would always yield to your direction. I will look forward to having you back here again in the future to deep dive, because I know there is more where that had come from. And of course, Akshat himself, who very soon we should get a Nigerian wife for you, if you're so willing to move over here. So thank you for your time, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's enjoy the rest of your day. So a QR code will be shared at the end of this call. Please do scan it and then start your journey in transforming your RTM to RTC. Thank you very much, and God bless.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you.